Welcome to Straight from the CPA's Mouth, your connection to the HESI CPA Knowledge Center, Alberta CPAs, and business professionals. This podcast, presented by the CPA Education Foundation, features Alberta Chartered Professional Accountants and others sharing their expertise and insights on a wide range of topics. Tune in regularly for eye-opening looks on leadership, business, education, and many issues of the day, straight from the CPA's mouth. Before we begin, in honor of the 94 calls to action put forth by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, we'd like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The CPA Education Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous peoples and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated.
Welcome back to another episode of Straight from the CPA's Mouth. My name is Kayla Gaffney with the CPA Education Foundation, and I will be your host for this episode. Last year, CPA Alberta implemented a brand new program to highlight students who are community builders, change makers, and an inspiration to us all. The Campus Stars program recognizes amazing Alberta post-secondary students who dream of becoming CPAs. In 2021, 6 students were chosen from different post-secondary institutions across the province and recognized for their inspiring stories. Joining me today is Arvie Justine Isidro, a campus star from Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, also known as SAIT. Arvie is here to chat all things student and about their experience as a mentor in the post-secondary world. It's time to hear it straight from the almost CPA's mouth. Arvie, thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to jump right into our questions. So you are such an accomplished person, Arvie, especially for, living and breathing in the post-secondary world. For our audience that might not know, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're at in your academic journey.
Okay. Hello, Kayla. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. And my name is Arvie Justine Isidro. I am currently a fourth-year accounting student at SAIT. It's my final semester, and I can't wait to graduate. Finally, I was a peer mentor for international students before, and then later on supervised the program at SAIT. And then I later on moved on to a new role, and I'm still part of SAIT Accounting Society. I do a lot of the communications for the organization, and it's been awesome.
So speaking of your peer mentorship connection, what inspired you to get involved with the program at SAIT?
Just a little bit of a backstory about myself. Ever since I was younger, I've always been passionate, mentoring others, kind of like helping them achieving the best that they can. I remember specifically that with me and my childhood best friends, we would just organize kind of like a classroom setup where we would just teach each other. And as I grow older, I've never realized how much I love peer mentorship until I actually got the official experience being a peer mentor for international students. What inspired me to stay in the role and to still incorporate mentorship in my daily routine is because of how much I've grown and how much I've learned as a person throughout my experiences, whether that's through the mentorship program or whether that's through having a direct mentor or a direct coach with my instructors or with anyone that can offer me great advices.
You specifically worked with international students. Why is that program so essential to help them succeed once they've come over to Canada and are working in the post-secondary degrees?
Of course. So just a little bit of a background about them. They already had an established career back in Brazil. They were working as a lawyer. One of them was working as a quality assurance analyst. And having me as still a student trying to get my life together, I've always wanted to help them navigate different uncertainties when they transition to post-secondary. Even though they already had experiences going through post-secondary back in their hometowns, I strongly believe that, for instance, as alleviating communication barriers, I was able to help them land their part-time jobs. I was able to take them on my journey to network with other people. And I think that having a mentor and navigating uncertainties, and especially in this generation, always a good thing to learn from their experiences and also to share some of your experiences so your mentors can also learn from you. Hopefully that sort of answer your question, Kayla.
Yes, it absolutely does. To me, that mentor is someone who, can make those connections where someone might need a little bit of help and need a little support. So speaking of, what does someone look for when they are either looking for their own mentor or looking to become a mentor?
So I think the biggest piece of advice that I always give to other students who are looking for their mentor, or in my case, is that how willing is the mentor to share their experiences or also to learn throughout their journey with the whole peer mentorship program. For instance, you can just take myself or my experiences as an example. I was able to learn about different things that I would not be able to get from experiencing different collaborations at SAIT. I was able to gain my communication skills. I was able to develop a lot of my interpersonal skills. For instance, they were teaching me a lot of their languages, a lot of their cultures, and having the openness to learn and to share this learnings to your mentor or to your mentee, that really helped. And that is something that I always look for whenever I'm looking for a mentee or a mentor.
Right. Those are all fantastic points. I'm in my 30s. Many of our listeners are beyond in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and up. Is it ever too late to find a mentor?
Honestly, I never thought that it was ever too late to find a mentor, because I strongly believe that mentorship happens at any stage in our life or at any point in our life, whether we are already managing a big corporation. They already have established a career, having experiences, but there will always be someone that can help us, that can guide us navigating different things in our lives and helping us to achieve their goals. So it is never too late to find a mentor.
And you've mentioned in our chat that you are, closing in on that final semester of school. So you've been through a lot with the landscape of education and how it's changed so rapidly in the past few years. How can students learn to embrace that change to help reach their academic goals?
That's actually a good question. I think for me, as an accounting student, I'm always set into having a formulated method, having formulas, having different things that is very organized in a very organized manner. To me, embracing changes, it is a very daunting experience. I'm not gonna lie to you that it can result to any positive or negative things, but the way I see it is when we're open to take risks and learn from these experiences throughout our journey, and when we accept that not every outcome will result into something positive, or not every outcome we will win, and then that's something that will help us embrace these different changes in our lives. And we always have to kind of like take a step back, think about what we're currently doing. And that is something that I've always done in my experiences, powering through online schools, transitioning online schools.
Mm-hmm. That has been a huge hurdle for students. 1 week you're in the classroom, the next week you find out you're headed for virtual learning, and then few months later, you might be in the classroom again. So I definitely have a lot of empathy for that piece of your journey that you've been on. And are you able to share what are some challenges that you faced along the way? You're so close to graduating. Were there some bumps along the road there, other than, of course, navigating the world of COVID?
Actually, personally, I've failed a lot navigating this last 4 years of my life, I'd say. There were instances where I almost gave up on my goals. There are instances where I was put down by many others because of the way I present myself to the public, or whether of how I speak, or whether of the skills that I think I can bring into the table. And these are kind of like the challenges that I thought would hinder me from achieving my goals. However, what I did is that I've never taken it too personally. Yes, I would entertain these thoughts. However, I would never dwell in it. What I did is I just told myself to take a risk and never look back. And here I am, talking to the listeners right now. And those are kind of like the challenges that I've faced over the last 4 years, I'd say.
And people are going to have their opinions, and that's fine. But it's great to be out there living your own authentic truth. I think that is so important for students and professionals to know. And do you have any tips on how students and how professionals can increase their resilience and learn to bounce back from some of the lows that we can all experience?
Of course. I've always kind of like deviated into three things. So first and foremost, we always have to foster our own well-being, whether that's through journalizing, whether that's through exercising, participating in different sports, or anything that can increase our own well-being. Second pillar would be finding a purpose to anything that we do. For instance, I found whatever that I like when I was part of the peer mentorship program. I've never realized that I love mentoring other students so much. And that is something that I thought my purpose would be in this life. And last would be that we always have to embrace healthy thoughts. There are instances that failures can really affect our own mental well-being. However, the way I think about it is that, yes, we all are human. Yes, we tend to be on the negative side at some point, but the way I see it is that recognize the behavior patterns, recognize the negative behaviors, and how we can work through that, whether that's through journalizing, or whether that's through changing our own routines and our own negative patterns. And those are kind of like the three things that I can give you as a tip on how you can quickly bounce back after a failure.
And I'm sure as a mentor that you've helped your mentees navigate challenges that they've had. And some of that advice, you kind of have to say to yourself, "Ooh, that was good. I should use that in my own life."
Yeah, that is so true. I've taught my mentees that they never should have to be afraid on putting themselves out there, and that they never should kind of like take every bumps in their road too personally, because it will just hinder them from being successful in whatever they do right now or in the future.
Absolutely. And I think that's what made you a standout candidate to become a campus star. Can you share a little bit about what that meant to you, receiving that kind of stamp of approval?
Honestly, it came to a surprise to myself. Last year, I thought that it was a scam. I thought it was someone just pranking me. And then I checked the credentials, whoever sent the email to me. And then up until this point, I still couldn't believe that I was recognized as one of the campus stars in Alberta. And to me, what it meant is that it meant that everything that I do, that everything that I've been doing up until right now is working effectively. I don't think that it is, I don't mean that, um, sorry, I don't really think that it is something that I can brag about, but rather it is something that really validated that I should continue mentoring other students, that I should continue being my authentic self, whether that's through working environment or whether that's in SAIT. And that is something that I've always think about becoming a campus star. I wanted to show to everyone that yes, you are unique, yes, you are different. However, it's always up to you on how you can make these differences and how you can make this uniqueness to your advantage. And that is kind of like what it meant being a campus star.
Absolutely. And I feel like the world would be so boring if we were just carbon copies of each other. That uniqueness is what makes life very beautiful, in my opinion.
That is true. That is totally true. Because like if we all think the same thing, if we all have the same thing, it would just be boring, as you mentioned.
Yes. So you are, so close to being out of the post-secondary world. What is your next step after graduation?
So like starting this year, January, I came to reminisce, feeling a little bit nostalgic, because it's going to be my last semester. Almost 4 years of my life has been part of SAIT. I was a peer mentor. I've done a lot of things at SAIT. And to me, what's next step for me is I've always wanted to incorporate everything that I've learned as a mentor into my future endeavors. I've always wanted to help students, whether they are in their post-secondary, high school student, junior high, or anyone, to navigate series of challenges and to help them achieve something that they thought would never happen, and something that they thought that they can't really do anything because of how they present themselves in the public. And I've always wanted to allow them or to help them embody their own uniqueness, because there are instances in my life, in my own personal life, and I'm not entirely sure with our listeners if they felt this way too, but there are instances in my life where I thought me being this way, me being my authentic self, is a weakness. And I've never realized, until I started at SAIT, that yes, you are unique, and yes, you utilize that. And that is something that I've always wanted to help students or help anyone, that yes, you are unique, embody that. And yes, it is a good thing to be unique. And that is something that's kind of like a next step for me. I haven't had a formal or like a very detailed plan in my future, but I wanted to cultivate everything that I've learned from being a mentor into my future endeavors.
And I think what you just said leads perfectly into my next question. So our listeners, might be looking to hire students just like you, but what can professionals in the workplace learn from students?
There are instances that we tend to kind of like act the same thing as our senior managers, because we idolize them so much that we wanted to be like them. So to me, professionals can learn students from me by being open to showcase your differences. Who cares if the way you think or the way you act is different? As long as you get as long as you get your job done, and that is something that really counts. And another thing is, they also have to be open to those who are so confident in showcasing the way they think, the way they act, because I strongly believe that diversity is not just attributed to our physical characteristics, but it is something that goes beyond that. It is something that's different. So if someone is thinking differently, that is awesome. And I want professionals to know that being different, it is not part of your weakness. It is not part of something that needs to be marginalized, but it is something that needs to be honed and something that needs to be incorporated in our daily operations in the business. And I think those two things, being able to showcase your differences and being open to accepting those who show their differences are something that can professionals learn from students like me.
And are you hoping to join the workforce once you're outside of school, or still kind of figuring it out?
Actually, I'm just gonna brag a little bit, but like last fall 2021 recruitment, I was luckily recruited from one of the public accounting firms here in Canada. And yes, I am already recruited, and I can't honestly wait to join the workforce. And after so many years of working part-time, I can finally launch my career and incorporate everything that I've learned throughout the last, almost 24 years of my existence.
I'm sure a few of our listeners are sad that you are already in placement.
You can feel free to chat with me. We can always chat. We can always chat and then just talk about my experiences and everything. However, sadly, I am already recruited, and I'm actually looking forward to it.
And that is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So what is it that drew you to the world of accounting and the world of business? Because it is so far reaching, and that kind of view of a, quote unquote, stereotypical accountant, that is something that's fading into the past.
As you've mentioned, stereotypical accountants, they tend to be quiet. They tend to have their own little world, but that's just not me. I've always had this extroverted energy towards other people. And back when I was graduating in high school, I have never really knew what I wanted. I tried to pursue nursing, and that did not work out. I've took a year off to go on a self-discovery journey and to work full-time at Tim Hortons. And when I was working at Tim Hortons as a supervisor, I had a lot of responsibilities in regards to the business overall. I was conducting inventory checks. I was doing a lot of profit and loss because it is a franchise, and they wanted us to learn on how we can incorporate all of the financial side of this franchise. And when I initially applied to SAIT, I thought I've always wanted to be in the business. And it's so weird. It's just a gut feeling that I wanted to be in business. And then as I was navigating all of this introductory class, to me, accounting really helped me understand the business. It really does gives me a lot of backstories, a lot of different trends that the company was currently doing. For instance, this is just a little bit for our accountants listeners. So if a company wanted to increase their profitability, they can either increase their marketing expenses and stuff like that. And to me, that adds a lot of value because I was able to understand this different stories that happen throughout the year and communicate that to the public. And that really something that attracted me to the accounting world and to the business world.
I think you're spot on there. Many, many moons ago when I was in high school, you kind of feel that pressure to, make a choice, but you're around 18 years old, what have you seen of life? So to kind of take that time and figure out what you're passionate about and what has clicked with your skill set and what you want to learn more about, I think that is such a valuable experience. And it seems to have landed you in the exact right place.
Yeah, it kind of is because like I was at that point in my grade 12. I was in last semester. I never really knew what I wanted. I was asking my instructors. I was asking some of my families, my friends. They've always really relied on what they thought I was good at, and then I've tried it because I thought, hey, might as well take risks, right? And but it did not work out. And after kind of like, yeah, again, going through that self-discovery journey, it really did help me get to the place I am right now. And it's been a fantastic journey, even though bumps happen along the road.
Absolutely. Arvie, you have been so much fun to talk to today. To end our episode, I have one final question for you. What are your hopes for your graduating class?
I think my biggest hopes for my graduating class is for them to never lose hope after going through a series of challenges in their lives, to continue to be different and unique at what they do. And most importantly, to find contentment in whichever field they are trying to land an opportunity. Because I strongly believe that if someone is contented with what they do, they feel satisfaction. And that satisfaction is synonymous to being happy. So those are kind of like my biggest hopes for my graduating class. Continue doing what you're doing right now. I know I'm part of it, that we're so close, 2 more months, and we're finally off into the workforce, and we can have our big guy or big girl's job. And yes, those are kind of like my biggest hopes for my graduating class.
Fantastic. And we wish you nothing but luck along the way. Hang in there. It's 2 more months. We know you can do it.
Yes. So excited. It's 2 more months left. And even though it's getting a little bit busier, but hey, I'm so excited to finally graduate, have that degree in the back of my name.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on our podcast today.
No worries. I'm glad that I was invited, and I'm so glad that I was able to share a little bit of my experiences, and hopefully listeners can pick up a few things from these experiences.
Absolutely. I'm sure everyone has a lot to think about, and many of our listeners are students themselves, people that hire students, are looking to recruit, and you gave them a lot of food for thought. Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Straight from the CPA's Mouth. This episode featured Arvie Justine Isidro, 2021 Campus Star from SAIT. Don't forget to subscribe to Straight from the CPA's Mouth mailing list for exclusive content. If you like what you're hearing, have ideas for future episodes, or have any feedback you'd like to share, email us at knowledgecenter@cpaalberta.ca or leave us a comment on social media.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Straight from the CPA's Mouth is produced by the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the CPA profession in Alberta. This podcast is made possible by Brian Heshie, FCPA FCA. Thanks to Brian's generous donation, the foundation created the Heshie CPA Knowledge Center, a virtual hub of resources for all Albertans. Find out more about the foundation and the Knowledge Center at cpaalberta.ca/foundation.